The spire of concordance stood at the center of the galaxy, taller than any mountain, brighter than any star. Inside its endless halls, the Galactic Council gathered. 1,000 banners of alien nations hung from the high walls. Every color, every symbol, every species was represented. The great chamber pulsed with energy, voices layered over voices, claws scratching, wings beating, tentacles twitching. Every eye turned toward the center. There, around a circle of glowing chairs, sat the council. Each chair bore the crest of a world. Some were carved from crystal, some forged from metal older than memory. Together, they shone like jewels in the dim light. But one chair, a chair that had never been removed, stood empty. Its crest glowed faintly with the outline of a blue-green. World Earth, the galaxy laughed. Empty as always, hissed a scaled diplomat from the Velen. Humans are myths. Ghosts of an age-long past. They were fragile. Buzzed an insectoid core speaker, his wings rattling. No species born from a death world could last this long. Billions of viewers across the stars tuned into the broadcast. The council's sessions were always public, and this one was no different. Across countless homeworlds, families gathered around holoscreens. They pointed at the empty human chair and chuckled. Humans dead. Humans never real. Earth's seed is only tradition. The laughter filled the galaxy, but not everyone laughed. Among the council staff was Lara, a young archivist from the Ilari, a species of tall, silver-skinned scholars with crystalline eyes. She sat quietly at her post, her hands trembling as she clutched a stack of glowing records. Her people loved history, but Laura loved it more than most. She had spent years digging through forgotten files, dusty archives, and corrupted signals. She had seen enough to believe. When she looked at the empty seat of Earth, her heart raced. She whispered to herself, "They were real. They were here." Something terrible happened. The chamber suddenly shifted as the high speaker, a massive avian alien with black feathers and burning eyes, raised his wings. "The matter of Earth is irrelevant," the speaker declared. "For 10,000 years, their seat has been empty. It will remain empty. Let us move on to real business." The crowd roared in agreement. But before the speaker could continue, a soft alarm rang through the chamber. Everyone turned to the massive holoscreen at the back of the chamber. A red icon pulsed. Incoming transmission. The chamber hushed. The spire never received outside transmissions without clearance. The guards moved quickly, claws on weapons, eyes glowing. The speaker hissed, "Who dares interrupt this council?" A trembling technician at the control podium shouted, "It's not one of ours, Speaker." "The origin. It's unknown. Coordinates. Uncharted space." The chamber erupted in noise. "Impossible," shouted one. "A trap," shouted another. "Open it," the speaker ordered. The holoscreen flickered. Static hissed. For a long moment, nothing but noise filled the air. Then, slowly, a sound emerged. A rhythm, a heartbeat. Thump, thump. The galaxy fell silent. The heartbeat grew louder, pulsing through the chamber like thunder. The technicians exchanged terrified looks. Their claws hovered above controls, unsure whether to cut the feed or let it play. Then from the static, a voice, a human voice. It spoke in ancient galactic standard, the language humans had once helped shape. "We were never gone." Gasps echoed. Delegates shouted. Some screamed that it was fake, an echo, a trick. Others stared at the empty seat in shock. The technician closest to the console collapsed. Skin turned pale, his breathing shallow, when guards rushed to him. He whispered only one word, "Human." Panic spread. Whole factions demanded the message be deleted. Others begged to trace its source. Lara stood, her crystal eyes glowing. For the first time in her life, she raised her voice in the council chamber. "Do not ignore this," she cried. "For centuries you have mocked Earth, but their seat was never erased. Why? Because you feared this day. The humans warned us, and we betrayed them." The chamber roared back. "Silence, child," the speaker thundered. "Humans are dust, but the holoscreen still pulsed with the human heartbeat. And behind it, new coordinates appeared. Long strings of numbers burned into the display coordinates, leading to the edge of the galaxy. The heartbeat stopped. The chamber held its breath. Then the message repeated, louder this time, shaking the spire's foundations. We were never gone. And then darkness. The transmission ended. The council chamber plunged into silence, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing, scratching claws, and nervous whispers. Billions watching across the galaxy stared at their holoscreens. In shock. For the first time in memory, laughter about the humans had stopped. The speaker leaned forward, his black feathers trembling. We must decide, he growled. Destroy this message or follow it. Lorraine's heart pounded. She knew the council. Feared the truth, she whispered to herself. They are out there. They have been waiting, and now they are calling us. The speaker raised his talons to silence the crowd. His eyes glowed with cold fire. Very well, he said. We will send a fleet. Gasps erupted. 1,000 voices screamed at once. Some cheered, others cursed. But the decision was made. The empty seat of Earth glowed faintly in the shadows, as if the chair itself had heard the message. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, something stirred. The council chamber still shook from the message. The words hung in the air like fire. We were never gone. For hours, the delegates argued. Some demanded the coordinates be erased from history. Others wanted to send probes. Few shouted that the humans must be dead, that it was all a trick. The high speaker spread his wings, cutting through the noise. Enough. We will send a fleet to these coordinates. If it is a trap, we will crush it. If it is nothing, we will erase it. The vote was forced through. Not all agreed, but fear silenced most. The decision was made. The Council Expeditionary Fleet would investigate the signal. Admiral Zixtar was chosen to lead. He was a towering reptilian warrior, his scales sharp as blades, his voice like thunder. The galaxy feared him, and he liked it that way. On the command deck of his flagship, the Iron Talon, Zixtar stared at the empty human chair, its symbols still glowing faintly in the council chamber's feed. Humans, he growled. They exist. They will bow. If they lie, they will burn. Beside him, aides tapped glowing control panels. Warships gathered, sleek Velen destroyers, buzzing core carriers, heavy Avar dreadnoughts. Hundreds of ships stood ready, engines glowing. Like miniature suns, billions tuned in to the live broadcast. Hollow screens across the galaxy carried the news. The Council fleet was going to the coordinates of the human signal. Crowds filled plazas. Some cheered. Certain humanity would finally be proven a myth. Others whispered nervously, the words still echoed in their minds. We were never gone. Meanwhile, deep in the Spire's data vaults, the technician who had fainted during the signal sat shaking on a medical bed. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow. Doctors surrounded him asking questions, but he only repeated the same thing. It spoke my name. Impossible, the doctors hissed. It was old code, nothing more, but the technician's eyes were wide with terror. No, it knew me. It knew what I fear. The humans are not dead. They're watching. The doctors sedated him, but the rumor spread fast through the Spire. By nightfall, even the lowest workers whispered, the humans know. On the Iron Talon, the fleet prepared for jump. But before they could depart, the transmission activated again. This time, only Zixtar and his officers heard it. The holoscreen filled with static, then cleared to reveal a starless void. A deep voice echoed, calm but filled with weight. You erased us. You silenced us. Do not follow unless you are ready to face what you have hidden. The officers froze. Zixtar's claws dug into his command chair. Show yourself, he roared. The voice ignored him. The screen flickered with images. Burned cities, broken. Fleets, shadows swallowing whole planets. Finally, the voice whispered. The galaxy laughed. But Earth remembers. And then silence. The chamber erupted in fear. Officers begged the admiral to delay. to analyze further. Zixtar slammed his fist against the console. We jump now. If humans are waiting, I will drag them into the light myself. Engines roared. One by one, the warships vanished into hyperspace. Streams of light tore across the stars. The fleet surged toward the edge of the galaxy, toward the forbidden coordinates. In the spire, the council watched with nervous eyes. Billions of citizens watched too, holding their breath as the fleet entered uncharted space. Hours passed, then silence. No messages, no updates. The galaxy waited. Finally, the holoscreens flickered to life again. The fleet had arrived. Gasps filled the council chamber. The coordinates led to a dead star system. The central sun was broken, collapsed into a glowing ember. Planets shattered into drifting rocks. Moons split apart like cracked eggs. It was a graveyard. The fleet floated among the ruins, scanners active. Zixtar's voice growled over the broadcast. Nothing. Empty space. Another lie. But then something appeared on the edge of the scan. A shape the iron talon screen zoomed in. The galaxy stared. Among the debris floated wrecks. Thousands of ships. Some alien, some unknown, some human. Gasps erupted across every world. Human ships, massive, angular, scar-drifted silently in the void. Their insignias glowed faintly. The mark of Earth. Zixtar sneered. Wreckage. That is all your humans ever were? But the scans showed something else. One of the human ships was not entirely dead. A faint energy pulse flickered deep inside its hull. The fleet moved closer. Drones entered the broken ship, lights piercing the dark corridors. Cameras showed the galaxy what lay inside. Bones, rust, shattered halls. And then the drones found it. ACRYO-pod. It glowed faintly, frost clinging to the edges. Something was inside. Zixtar leaned forward. Open it. The galaxy watched in silence as the pod hissed, steam curling into the air. Slowly, the lid opened. Inside was a child. A human child. Her chest rose and fell. Her eyes fluttered open. She gasped softly, her breath fogging the cold air. Billions across the galaxy leaned closer to their Schlodash screens. The child whispered in a trembling voice, "Where is Earth?" The chamber of the spire exploded with chaos. Billions of viewers screamed in shock. The council howled. Zixtar bared his fangs, frozen. The child stared at the cameras, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The feed cut to black. The galaxy was left in silence. The galaxy could not breathe. The last broadcast had ended with a single image. A small human child awakening inside a cryopod, her first words a whisper, "Where is Earth?" Every world erupted. On Velen battlemoons, soldiers shouted in disbelief. On Ilari crystal worlds, scholars wept at the confirmation. In the hive cities of the core, insect wings rattled in panic. Billions of voices asked the same question: how could humans still exist in the spire of concordance? The council chamber descended into chaos. The high speaker's feathers flared, his wings spreading wide. Silence roared, but his voice was drowned out. Some demanded the child be killed at once. Others begged to protect her. But all of them knew one truth. The myth was no longer myth. Humanity was real. Far from the spire, Admiral Zixtar's fleet drifted through the ruined system. The sun was a dead ember, bleeding light across shattered planets. Broken moons hung like scars in the sky. And in every shadow floated the wrecks of thousands of warships, their hulls torn, their engines cold. The alien ships bore markings of species long extinct. But scattered among them were vessels none had seen before, brutal designs of iron and steel. Human ships, some were colossal, dwarfing, even Avard dreadnoughts. Their hulls bore burn marks that glowed faintly, as if the scars of battle refused to fade. The fleet's scanners pulsed, gathering images, sending them back to the council. The galaxy stared, horrified, at the evidence of a war too great to imagine. "This is not a graveyard," whispered one officer. "This is a battlefield." On board the Iron Talon, the human child sat wrapped in a thermal blanket, her small hands trembling. Her skin was pale from centuries of cryo-sleep, but her eyes burned with a faint glow that unsettled even the bravest soldiers. Zixtar towered over her, his voice sharp. "Who are you? How do you live? Where is your world?" The child looked up at him, her voice quiet but steady. "My name is Arya. I was born on Earth, and you took it from us." Gasps spread across the command deck. Officers exchanged nervous glances. Zixtar growled. "Lies. Earth was abandoned. Humans fled. You are no more than a relic." But Arya shook her head, her glowing eyes fixed on him.
What?
"Earth hid. You all betrayed us. And now the shadows come." Her words sent a chill through the fleet, too. Test her claim. Zixtar ordered drones to continue exploring the wrecked human ship. The Galaxy watched through the live feed as drones floated through its hollow corridors. The halls were lined with bones. Human skeletons lay strapped in battle stations, still gripping rusted weapons. Some were slumped in prayer, hands clasped to their chests. Others were sealed in shattered cryopods, frozen in death. The drones moved deeper, passing through a collapsed hangar filled with broken fighters. Symbols of Earth still glowed faintly on the wings. The camera panned across the wreckage and found words. Carved into the metal by desperate hands, "Earth endures." Billions watching across the galaxy felt their hearts freeze, back in the spire. Panic spread. The high speaker tried to dismiss the evidence as trickery, but his trembling feathers betrayed his fear. "This is nothing," he shouted. "Ruins of a forgotten war. A dying child in a frozen pod. Humanity is finished." But Laura, the young Ilari historian, stood in defiance. "No. Humanity warned us. Look at the ruins. They fought something far greater than us, and they lost. But Earth may still live." Her words were dangerous. To suggest Earth had survived was to admit the Council had lied for centuries. Yet billions of viewers whispered the same thought. As debates raged, the holoscreen suddenly flickered. The transmission from the fleet changed. Data poured in faster than the technicians could process. Hidden codes, encrypted signals messages, buried deep in the wreckage. R.A. rushed to the console. Her hands shook as she translated the ancient human code. The Galaxy watched as words appeared across the screen. "We hid the world. Find us, or face what we faced." The chamber froze. The truth was undeniable now. Earth had not died. It had vanished, hidden by its own hand, and the reason for that hiding was something terrible on the Iron Talon. Arya's faint voice echoed again. "You should not have come here. This place is not safe. The enemy still sleeps." Zixtar snarled. "What enemy? What do you speak of, child?" Arya pointed toward the wreckage, her small hand trembling. "They will wake. The same ones who burned our stars. We fought them, and we bled. You laughed at us, but soon you will see." Her words sent fear through every soldier's veins. Even Zixtar, fearless warlord, felt a cold weight in his chest. Then the sensors screamed. Deep in the graveyard among the drifting wrecks, something moved. Not debris, not a ship, something else. The cameras turned. For a moment, only silence. Then a shadow stretched across the dead star, shape larger than any dreadnought, half buried in darkness. Its hull was jagged, blacker than space, pulsing, with faint red veins. Not human, not alien, something other. Something alive. The fleet froze, and then one of its eyes opened. Alarms blared across the Iron Talon. Arya clutched her blanket, her glowing eyes filled with terror. "They are waking," she whispered. "The ones who made Earth hide." The Galaxy watched in horror as the shadow stirred, stretching like a beast long asleep. The screen cut to static. Billions were left staring at empty holoscreens, hearts pounding, minds filled with dread. 4. The first time in 10,000 years the galaxy understood. Earth's seat was empty because Earth had been hiding, and the reason was now awake. The galaxy had fallen silent. The last broadcast ended in chaos. The fleet drifting through the graveyard, the human child awake, the shadow stirring among the wrecks. Billions of citizens across thousands of worlds now whispered the same name. Human in the spire of concordance, the council chamber was louder than ever. Alien delegates screamed at one another, their voices clashing like weapons. Some demanded that the fleet retreat immediately. Others argued they should kill the child before she spread poisonous lies. A few, trembling with fear, admitted the truth. Earth had not vanished, but the greatest shock was still to come. On the flagship Iron Talon, the human child sat in the center of the command deck. Lights burned bright around her, cameras broadcasting, her face to the galaxy. She looked fragile, pale skin, tangled hair, small hands wrapped around a thin blanket. Yet her eyes shone with a glow that unsettled every viewer. It was not natural, it was. More Admiral Zixtar loomed over her, his scaled body tense with rage. "Speak, child. Tell us where your kind hides." Arya's voice was soft, but the galaxy heard it clearly. Earth is not gone. Earth chose to hide. You all mocked us, betrayed us, and laughed, but we never left. Billions of beings leaned closer to their holoscreens. The words felt heavy, impossible to ignore. Zixtar slammed his claws on the console. "Lies. You are a survivor of ruins. Nothing more?" Arya turned her glowing eyes on him, unblinking. "You betrayed us. And now you fear the shadows we warned you about." The deck fell silent. Even the proud admiral could not move under her stare. She closed her eyes, and her voice trembled as if recalling old wounds. "I remember the fire. I remember the sky filled with black ships, darker than night. They came with claws of metal and eyes of red. They consumed our stars. We fought, bled, and we would have won if not for you." The council gasped as her words spread across the galaxy. "What do you mean?" one delegate demanded. Arya's eyes opened again, tears glowing on her cheeks. "When the enemy came, we called for help. But the council silenced us. You called us liars. You left us to burn." Billions of viewers felt their stomachs twist. For centuries, they had mocked the empty seat of Earth, but now the truth was being spoken live before them. On the Iron Talon, medical drones hovered around the child, scanning her vitals. Officers whispered nervously as results flickered across their screens. "The data was impossible, Admiral." One officer stammered, She is human, but her DNA, it has changed. She carries markers we do not understand." Zixtar growled, "Speak plainly." The officer hesitated. "She is stronger, faster. Adapted, her blood is dangerous." Arya tilted her head, watching them. "We changed because we had to. Earth's children always change. That is why the enemy fears us. That is why you feared us too." Her small voice cut like a blade. In cities across the galaxy, viewers sat frozen. On desert worlds, miners dropped their tools to stare. In orbiting palaces, nobles gripped their thrones. In hidden slums, the poor whispered in awe. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was united in fear of the truth. The myths of humanity were no longer stories. The child in the cryopod had shattered the lie. Back in the spire, the council chamber shook with rage. "This is madness," cried the insectoid core. "Destroy the child before her lies, infect the people." "No," shouted Lara, the young historian. "She speaks truth. Look at the wreckage, the codes, the scars. Humanity fought something beyond us, and we abandoned them." The high speaker slammed his staff against the floor. Sparks flared. "Enough. Whether true or false, this child is a threat. Humanity always was. We must decide if she lives or dies." Billions of viewers held their breath. Every world waited for the vote. But before the council could speak, Arya's voice rang out again. The broadcast carried her words into every home. "Every city, every world, you've betrayed us once. Do it again, and you will all die. The shadows are awake. They will not spare you. Only Earth can fight them. Only we can win." Her small fist clenched, her eyes blazing brighter. "If you still laugh at us, then you will burn as we burned." Even as her words echoed, sensors screamed again across the iron talon. The shadow in the graveyard moved. The massive shape pulsed. With red light, her eyes opened across its jagged body, each glowing like fire. Arya turned her head slowly toward the screen, her face pale with fear. "They are coming," she whispered. "And now it is too late."
Oh.
The broadcast cut off. In static, as alarms blared across the fleet, billions of viewers cried out in fear. The galaxy had just learned the truth and, now, the enemy humanity warned about had awakened, and in the spire of concordance. The empty seat of Earth glowed faintly, as though waiting for its rightful owner. To return, the galaxy trembled. The fleet's last transmission had shown the awakening shadow. Billions across the stars screamed in fear as the holoscreens cut to static. Panic spread through markets, homes, and military stations. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy believed the old human warnings, and deep in the spire of concordance, the truth was about to break. The council chamber was chaos. Delegates shouted over one another. Some demanded the child be silenced at once, her words erased. Others, trembling, admitted that she was right. "Why else?" Lara cried, her crystalline eyes glowing. Would Earth's seat remain all these centuries? Why was it never removed? Because the council knew the truth. You all knew. The High Speaker's wings snapped open, his feathers bristling. "Silence, these are lies." But whispers spread through the chamber. The younger delegates turned to each other with suspicion. Had the elders hidden something? The people of the galaxy demanded answers. Their messages flooded the Spire's networks. What happened to Earth? Who betrayed them? That night, Arya moved in secret. Guided by her obsession with history, she slipped into the Spire's lower archives. The chambers were vast and cold, filled with data crystals glowing faintly in the dark. There, she searched for records sealed long ago. Many files were erased, but she found fragments buried deep under false layers. The files were marked with a single phrase: Operation Silence. Her hands shook as she activated them. Holoscreens flickered to life, revealing old council orders. Voices of leaders long dead filled the chamber. The humans claim a shadow fleet approaches. Nonsense. Fear tactics. If we admit their words, we admit their power. Silence them. Destroy their transmissions. Seal their borders. Erase their warnings. Lyra gasped. Her people had done this. The council had cut off Earth. They had turned the galaxy against them. They had left humanity to fight alone. Tears burned in her crystalline eyes. It was true. We betrayed them. By dawn, the forbidden files were no longer hidden. Laura sent them into the public stream. Across the galaxy, screens lit up with the voices of the past. Billions heard the truth. Erase the humans. Hide their warnings. Let their world vanish. Crowds erupted. Riots broke out on some worlds. Others mourned. Citizens shouted at their leaders, "You killed Earth. You doomed them." The council tried to stop the spread, but it was too late. The truth traveled faster than light. On the Iron Talon, Arya stood trembling as she listened to the old recordings. Her glowing eyes filled with rage. "You betrayed us," she whispered, her small voice sharp as a blade. "You mocked us, laughed at us, and left us to die." The officers avoided her gaze, their claws trembling on their controls. Even Admiral Zixtar could not meet her eyes. She turned to the cameras, knowing the galaxy still watched. "You silenced us once, but now you cannot silence me." Her words echoed across the stars, carried into every home, every city. In the spire, the chamber was divided. Some leaders shouted for Arya's death. Others demanded she be protected, her knowledge saved. The High Speaker's feathers trembled with fury. "If we admit betrayal, the council will fall. We must destroy this child, destroy the evidence, and bury the humans forever." But for the first time, many delegates refused. Some stood in open defiance. The galaxy has seen the truth. We cannot erase it now. If we destroy her, we destroy ourselves. The chamber cracked. Unity was gone, even. As they argued, the shadow moved. In the dead system, red lights flared across the giant shape. More wreckage shifted, revealing claws of black metal, spines like mountains, and weapons that pulsed with unnatural fire. Suddenly, one of the Council's frigates screamed as beams of crimson energy tore through its hull. The galaxy watched. In horror as the ship exploded, its crew lost in fire. The shadows were awake. Zixtar roared, "Return fire!" The Iron Talon's cannons blazed, joined by hundreds of ships, but their beams glanced off the shadow's armor as if striking. Stone. Arya's voice cut through the chaos. You cannot win like this. Only Earth can stop them. As the fleet fought for survival, the wrecked human ships stirred again. Its broken systems sparked to life, broadcasting one final message. A voice, ancient yet strong, echoed across the stars. If you hear this, then Earth is hidden. We are watching. We are waiting. Trust no one. When the shadows come, we will return. The message ended. But it was enough. Humanity had left a promise. They were not gone. The Iron Talon shook as another shadow beam tore. Past its hull, officers screamed. The fleet began to fall back. Arya clutched the railing, her small frame shaking. This is only the beginning, she whispered. They woke because you came here. Now the whole galaxy will burn. The last thing billions of viewers saw was the shadow fleet rising from the graveyard, eyes glowing like red suns, and in the spire of concordance, Earth's empty chair glowed brighter than ever before. The galaxy was burning with fear. The graveyard system had awakened. Shadows rose from the wreck's vast shapes of living metal, with eyes that glowed like red suns. Their beams cut through council ships as if they were paper. Dreadnoughts shattered. The carriers split in half. Thousands screamed as their fleets crumbled. Billions of citizens across countless worlds watched the live broadcast in horror. For centuries they had laughed at humanity, mocking Earth's empty chair. Now they saw the truth. Humans had not been liars. The shadows were real, and Earth had been right. All along, on the Iron Talon, alarms blared, sparks rained from broken consoles. Officers shouted as the shadow closed in. Admiral Zixtar gripped the railing, his scales glowing with sweat. All ships hold formation, do not retreat. But his orders meant little. Ships were already fleeing, breaking apart under crimson fire. In the middle of the chaos, Arya stood small and pale, her glowing eyes filled with tears. She raised her voice above the screams. You cannot win, not without Earth. Tar spun toward her, his claws raised. And where's your Earth child? Hiding dead? Arya met his gaze without fear. No. Waiting. Suddenly, the battlefield shook. From the depths of the dead system, a new signal emerged, strong, steady, and clear. It cut across every channel, piercing through static and fear. Human voice, calm, commanding. This is Admiral Mara Saeed, of Earth's hidden fleet. Hold your lines. Humanity has returned. The galaxy froze. On thousands of worlds, families watching the broadcast gasped. Soldiers dropped their weapons in shock. Leaders in the spire stared at the glowing chair of Earth, unable to breathe. The myths were over. Humans were here. The stars themselves seemed to split open as human. Warships emerged from cloaking fields around the system. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Black holes, sharp angles, armored with metals that shimmered with strange energy. Engines blazed like suns, brighter than any alien design. Weapons lined their sides, massive cannons, railguns, and strange glowing devices that hummed with restrained power. The largest ship dwarfed even the Avar dreadnoughts. Its name burned across its hull in glowing letters, ESS Vindicator Billions. Across the galaxy whispered in awe. Humanity's fleet had not vanished, had hidden, silently watching. Preparing for the day of return, the human fleet opened fire. Thunder shook. The void as railguns hurled tungsten rounds at impossible speeds, tearing into the shadow's black armor. Plasma lances cut across the darkness, searing red eyes into ash. Missiles streaked like fireflies, exploding with white light that burned shadows away. The Council's broken fleet watched in shock as the humans fought with its brutal efficiency. On the Iron Talon, officers froze at their consoles. They are Deathworlders, one whispered. This is why the galaxy feared them. For every Council ship lost, a human ship stood unbroken, fighting harder. Across the stars, riots turned into silence. Citizens leaned forward at their holoscreens. For the first time, they were not laughing at humanity. They were cheering Deathworlders. Voices cried, "The humans live." Old songs once banned were sung again, in hidden bars and open squares. Beings lifted their voices as they watched human ships cut through shadows. The fear of centuries turned into awe. On the bridge of the Vindicator stood Admiral Mara Saeed. Her dark uniform bore the crest of Earth, her sharp eyes glowing with determination. She faced the galaxy as her voice filled every broadcast. "Earth warned you," she said coldly. "You silenced us, you betrayed us. And now you see the price of your arrogance." Her words cut deep. Leaders in the spire lowered their heads in shame. Billions across the galaxy whispered her name, awed by her presence. "But," she continued, her voice steady, "we do not return for revenge. We return for survival. The shadows threaten us all. Join us, or fall without us." The Shadow Fleet howled, their red eyes burning brighter. More claws unfolded, firing beams that scorched the void. But the humans did not falter. Arya watched from the Iron Talon, her small hands trembling, her eyes glowing brighter. "They are winning," she whispered. Zixtar, for the first time in his life, was silent. His proud voice gone, replaced by awe. The galaxy witnessed the impossible. The shadows, once unstoppable, were being pushed back. Back in the spire of concordance, chaos turned into silence. Delegates sat frozen as they watched humanity's return. For 10,000 years, Earth's seat had been mocked, ignored, left empty. Now it was filled not by a body, but by power. The High Speaker's feathers drooped. His voice was hollow. The humans, they were never gone. Lara stood tall, her crystalline eyes shining with tears. No, they endured. And now they are stronger than us all. The battle raged, but the shadows were not defeated. For every beast destroyed, more stirred in the graveyard, awakening one by one. On the Vindicator, Admiral Saeed clenched her fist. "This is only the beginning," she growled. "The galaxy must choose. Fight with us, or be consumed." The screen cut to static, leaving billions breathless in the spire. Earth's empty chair blazed with light, no longer silent. Humanity had returned. The galaxy had no more doubts. Humanity had returned. Their fleet burned across the stars, pushing back the shadows with brutal firepower. Railguns cracked, plasma lances roared, and missiles flashed like storms of light. For the first time, the shadows bled, but for every beast destroyed, more stirred in the graveyard. Red eyes opened in the dark, claws spread wider, and they're terrible. Voices echoed through space. The war was only beginning, in the spire of concordance. The council chamber was chaos once again. Delegates screamed, some with rage, some with fear, some with desperate hope. They cannot be trusted. The insectoid core shrieked, wings thrumming in panic. They are Deathworlders. They will conquer us next. They saved us. Another delegate cried. Without them, the shadows would already be upon our homes. The High Speaker's feathers drooped, his power slipping away. "We cannot bow to them," he muttered, though his voice shook. Lorray, the young historian, stood tall. Among the storm, her crystalline eyes blazed as she raised her voice above them all. "The choice is already here. Fight with Earth or die without them. Her words echoed through the chamber, heavy as stone. On the Iron Talon, Arya watched the battle unfold. From the viewscreen, her small frame shook with fear, but her glowing eyes never left the shadows. The officers whispered about her. Some called her a weapon, others called her hope. None could look at her without unease. She turned to Admiral Zixtar, her voice steady, despite her trembling hands. They will not stop. They will come for every world, every species. You can run, you can hide, but they will find you. Only Earth has the power to end them. Zixtar bared his fangs, but the pride in his voice was gone. And what would you have us do, child? Arya's eyes burned brighter. Choose. The Vindicator's broadcast cut across every channel. Admiral Marasad stood firm on her bridge, her voice strong and unshaken. People of the galaxy, she declared, you abandoned us once. You left us to fight alone. But humanity does not return for revenge. We return for survival. Words carried across billions of holoscreens into homes and cities, to palaces and slums. The shadows will consume us all, if you stand. With us, we will fight with you. If you turn away, you will burn without us. The choice is yours. For a moment, silence fell. The galaxy held its breath, but Arya was not finished. She stepped forward on the Iron Talon, her small voice cutting through the noise. Earth left behind one last weapon. The Leviathan core. Every officer froze. Even Zixtar narrowed his eyes. It is not a ship, Arya continued. It is. Not a gun. It is a heart of power, hidden in the dark. Only a child of Earth can awaken it. Her glowing eyes lifted toward the stars. And I am that child. The words shook the galaxy. On desert colonies, miners dropped their tools. Frozen moons, scientists whispered prayers. On lush worlds, nobles stared in silence. Billions of beings felt it at once. The choice. To side with the humans they had mocked, or to face the shadows alone. Crowds filled city squares, shouting at their leaders. Join them. Stand with Earth. In the spire, the council faced its greatest decision. The vote chamber glowed as banners, lit up one by one. Some species voted no, unwilling to kneel before humans. Others voted yes, desperate to survive. At the center, the High Speaker trembled. His pride battled his fear. Finally, with a slow shake of his wings, he cast his vote. Yes. The chamber erupted. Choice was made. Far in the void, where broken worlds drifted, something stirred. Sensors screamed as a hidden structure revealed itself. A vast sphere of dark metal, larger than any moon. Its surface pulsed faintly. Like the heartbeat of a sleeping god, the Leviathan core. Arya's small hand touched the console. Her eyes glowed brighter, veins of light spreading across her skin. It knows me, she whispered. It remembers. The core surface blazed with white fire. Waves of energy rippled across space, slamming into the shadows. Red eyes dimmed. Black claws recoiled. The first time the shadows screamed in pain. The galaxy trembled. Humanity's weapon had awakened. Admiral Mara Said's voice rang. Out across the stars, the choice is made. The war begins. On the spire, Earth's empty chair glowed so bright it blinded those who looked at it, and in the darkness beyond the graveyard more shadows stirred. 1,000 red eyes opened it. Once the final battle was coming. The galaxy stood on the edge of fire. The shadows had awakened in full. 1,000 eyes blazed red across the void, their claws stretching like mountains, their beams cutting through space itself. The Council's fleets were broken. Worlds trembled. But Earth had returned. Human warships filled the skies, railguns roaring, plasma blazing, missiles flashing brighter than suns. At their heart pulsed the Leviathan core, its energy rippling across the battlefield like the heartbeat of a god. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy fought not as scattered empires, but as one. And at the front stood humanity. On the bridge of the ES's Vindicator, Admiral Mara Said stood firm, voice carried across every channel. Hold the line. Today we end the Shadow Zor. We end together. Her words lit fires in every heart. Council crews, once fearful, now fought with desperate courage beside their human allies. Ships that had once mocked Earth now followed its lead. The galaxy's armies had bent before humanity's strength. Now, together they struck. Railguns thundered. Alien cannons screamed. Plasma beams cut through shadow flesh. Explosions lit the graveyard system with storms of fire. The shadows wailed. But they did not fall easily. For every beast destroyed, another rose from the dark. On the Iron Talon, Arya stood at the console, her small hands glowing with light as she guided the Leviathan core. Veins of white fire spread across her skin, her eyes blazing like twin stars. Officers watched in awe. "She is only a child," one whispered. "No," Zixtar growled, his voice heavy with respect. "She is humanity." The core pulsed with her heartbeat. Every thrum unleashed a wave of energy that shattered shadow beams, tore apart black armor, and lit the void with hope. But Arya's body shook. The power was immense, more than any human child should bear. She gasped, her breath ragged, but she refused to stop. "They will not win," she whispered. As the battle raged, the shadows unleashed their greatest weapon. From the abyss rose a colossal shape, larger than any world. Its body was covered in jagged spines, its eyes burning brighter than suns. The galaxy gasped. Even the bravest captains faltered. But Admiral Satid's voice rang out. "We warned you now, you see. But we do not run. We fight." The human fleet surged forward, every cannon firing, every missile streaking. The Vindicator itself charged, engines flaring like a star, ramming its weapons into the monster's chest. Arya screamed as the Leviathan core blazed. The wave of white fire tore through the beast, ripping its body apart in a storm of light. The void shook. The shadows howled in agony. One by one, their red eyes dimmed. The impossible had happened. The shadows were broken. When the light faded, the battlefield was silent. Wrecks drifted. Fires burned. But the shadows were gone. The galaxy stared. For the first time in thousands of years, the unkillable enemy was defeated, on worlds across. The stars, beings wept. Some dropped to their knees. Others shouted humanity's name. Old myths became truth before their eyes. Earth had saved them all, in the spire of concordance. The council chamber was silent. For centuries, Earth's seat had been empty, a mark of mockery. Now it glowed with light so bright it filled the hall. The chamber doors opened. Footsteps echoed. Admiral Mara Saeed entered, her uniform torn from battle, her eyes burning with unshaken will. Behind her walked Arya, weak but alive. Glowing faintly with the Leviathan's light, the delegates rose in silence as she crossed the chamber floor. Some bowed their heads. Others stared in awe. At last, Admiral Saeed reached the empty chair. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she sat. The chamber blazed with light. Earth's seat was filled. Her voice carried across the chamber, broadcast across the galaxy. "You laughed at us. You silenced us. You betrayed us. But we endured." Leaned forward, her gaze sharp as steel. Earth was never missing. "We were waiting." The words echoed into every home, every city, every world. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. Humanity had returned, not as myth, not as relic, but as leaders. Arya raised her voice, trembling but steady. "The shadows will rise again one day. But now, the galaxy will be ready, together, united." Her glowing eyes swept across the chamber. "Earth will stand at the front." In the skies above the spire, human and alien ships drifted together, their weapons. Silent at last. The stars were scarred, but alive. Across the galaxy, beings whispered the same thing. The Deathworlders had returned, and in the heart of the spire, Earth's chair glowed, not empty, not silent, but filled with the weight of history and the promise of the future. The age of humanity had begun.